for being with us, though on video conferencing, not physically, but we thank you. I can understand you are busy in the party meeting. So on behalf of IACC, I welcome you. I would say a few words about Piyush ji because I know him so well from so many years. His grasping power is more than anybody, you know. I was the chairman of Telecom Committee in IMC, and I was wondering, you know, chartered accountant, how he will be able to. I've been in telecom for so many years, but he did much more better than me. He could talk much more, you know, in details with me. So, Piyush ji, you are doing an excellent job in, power sector, and Prime Minister, everybody has been talking. You have connected all the villages. Piyush ji is the Honorable Minister for Independent Charge with Power, Coal and New Renewable Energy. He is a member of Rajya Sabha. He was earlier National Treasurer of BJP. He headed BJP Information Communication Campaign Committee for Indian General Elections 2014. He has been a brilliant academic record. All India second rank holder in CA, second rank holder in law in Mumbai University. He was well-known investment banker and advised many top corporates of the management strategy and growth. He served on the boards of State Bank of India and Bank of Baroda. He has participated in leadership program at Yale, Oxford, Princeton University. During his long political career, he has held several important positions at a different levels in the BJP and its National Executive Party. Tuesday, we had a very high-power panel. We'll be sending you. I think it was good of you that you asked Secretary, Energy to discuss with them, and we'll send you all the details, whatever has been discussed. Now, we are all waiting for a lunch, but we said no. Without you, we will not have a lunch. So we will be too happy to, hear from you. Thank you, Piyush ji, once again.
Thank you, Nanik Bhai. My apologies. This was a last-minute party meeting that came up a couple of days back, and I'm required to be there through the day, so it's lunchtime over there, and that's why I'm able to come here. My sincerest apologies for not being there in person and for not being able to join this high-powered morning session where I believe you had a very, very distinguished panel discussing about the energy sector and also launching the IACC Energy Forum. My compliments to the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, to you Nanik Bhai, Lalit Kanodia ji, and all other friends who are participating in this IACC National Annual Convention. You have completed 48 years, I believe. 48 years of service to expanding Indo-American trade, and I must compliment the leadership of IACC and all the people associated with this organization. I myself have attended several programs of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and I believe the 2,400 members from 12 locations that you service are truly people who are contributing to India's trade and engagement with the United States of America in different sectors: defense, oil and gas, aerospace, banking. And organizations such as IACC help to smoothen the edges. Very often in any trade there'll always be hiccups, there'll always be concerns, questions, misunderstandings, issues which require quick resolution. And I think my own experience with IACC has been that you have played a very, very important role in expanding this engagement with the United States between the US and India. And I'm sure the trust that the US-India engagement has received under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will continue to go forward. Our relations with the US are at an all-time high. Trade is at an all-time high. In 1990, I'm given to understand the trade was $5.6 billion bilateral trade in merchandise products, which has increased to $66.2 billion in 2015. That's almost a 12-fold increase in 26 years. Of course, We are not happy with that. We would look at expanding this or ramping this up in a much more fast-track manner in the days and months and years to come. To my mind, with India becoming the world's fastest growing large economy and with the competitive edge moving out of China to other countries, India's time has come to grab this opportunity. The United States, over the years, has lost its competitive edge amongst different nations in the world. Europe and America will look to outsource a lot of the products that they use, that they consume, and it's for India to grab that opportunity. I'm sure companies in India will take this opportunity, this brilliant chance that we have to provide high quality, standardized, high technology products to the world. We in India have launched the Make in India program. We are very conscious that zero defect and zero effect, as Prime Minister Modi said, is the mantra of the world. People are looking for very high quality products without the chalta hai attitude or the jugaad attitude that used to prevail once upon a time in India. People are looking for high quality products, but they're also looking for products which do not damage the environment, in fact, which help enhance concerns for the environment. And in that sense, this government in India and the government in the United States are working together with a shared vision to ensure that growth happens, but growth happens in a very sustainable manner. Growth takes care of the environment also, and growth ensures that we do not damage the environment beyond what is most necessary or beyond what is unavoidable. I would like to quote Barack Obama, President Obama, when he said, "America wants to be India's partner in igniting the next wave of growth. As India pursues reforms to encourage more trade and investment, we'll be the first in line." We have just very recently successfully navigated the GST story. GST has finally come to fruition. Probably the most comprehensive and path-breaking reform in the finance side, in the taxation side, that India has ever embarked upon. With the GST legislation becoming law and with our endeavors to bring it into action quickly, I'm sure foreign companies in India will also find it much easier to do business in India, much more simpler, much more honest, and much more fair and transparent in terms of the tax implementation of the tax laws of the land. I'm also working very closely with the American government and the American private sector to expand the renewable energy business in India. We have reset the goals and almost increased our solar energy targets from 20 gigawatt to 100 gigawatt by 2022. We are looking at becoming the world's renewable energy capital, and our 175 gigawatt program, and mind you, that is without considering hydro projects above 25 megawatt. So if you take the hydro projects, you would actually exceed 200 megawatts. And at that level, India would probably be the world's largest generator of renewable energy. This automatically translates into a huge investment opportunity. My own sense is that in the next 5 years, 5 to 7 years, India easily offers a $250 billion investment opportunity. Foreign direct investment is completely free, 100% FDI is permitted in all the sectors under my charge, including mining. And over the next 15 years, my own sense is, given the aspirational billion that India has, 1 billion people aspiring for a better quality of life, India's own energy consumption being 1/3 or even less than 1/3 of what the world average is. But probably when we compare to Europe and America, it's about 1/10 of what Europe and America are consuming. All of this portends well for the future of this sector. There's a huge unsatiated demand out there. This demand offers huge opportunities both for technology companies, for mining companies, for transmission companies, for generating companies, for renewable energy equipment suppliers, grid integration technology suppliers, and the actual wind and solar and biomass, hydro, all of these technologies to come, set up business in India, generate clean energy, and help India in a sustainable way to grow, continue to be the fastest growing economy in the world. I'm very confident there's also huge opportunities on the investment side for people to come and invest in India. It could be equity capital, it could be debt. There's large opportunities. And the India of today offers these opportunities in a corruption-free manner with the highest level of transparency. It offers scale. So there's huge scale that can be introduced in India, which can help to bring down cost. I've personally benefited with economies of scale and transparency. In our LED program, for example, costs have come down by nearly 85% over the last 18 months in the LED sector, the LED bulbs that we give out. The LED tube lights have also become almost 60% cheaper. We are now looking at energy efficient fans, air conditioning systems. Going forward, large volumes, nearly 20 to 30 million energy efficient agricultural pumps will be required in India to replace the age-old pumps that have been guzzling electricity. Smart meters is the next wave of technology that we'll be taking to our consumers. India will be adding or replacing nearly 250 million smart meters at the consumer end. I'm only mentioning these figures to explain the gigantic proportions that investment can be made in India. This will also help us bring down costs to more affordable levels, keep energy prices low, which ultimately is an enabler for the Indian economy to grow more rapidly, for Indian infrastructure to be created at affordable prices, and for the people of India to meet the aspirations of a better quality of life. I'll be happy to take any questions, Nanik Bhai. I've tried to cover as much as I could in a brief 10-minute interaction. But I would only like to end by saying that we in India believe that we have not inherited the earth to use as we like. We are not inheritors of this earth. We are only trustees who have been given charge of the earth today so that we can leave behind the earth in a better shape and form for the next generation to enjoy. We very, very seriously believe in intergenerational equity, and we believe Lalitji, you, I, all of us have a responsibility towards our next generation, which we hope to be able to fulfill in a most honorable manner. Once again, my apologies for not being there in person, but at the same time, I'm happy that I could interact with you and with your participants of this convention. I'll be happy to take a few questions if you should have any.
Thank you, Piyushji. I have no words to thank you. I know how busy you are in spite of your meeting today. You have been the national treasurer. But on your behalf, I have assured the panel that we will have full support for IACC Energy Forum. I'm sure you will support us, And now if there are any questions, one or two questions, please. Yeah, Mr. Sundar Advani, please.
Piyushji, Sundar Advani, Chairman of Advani Hotels. How are you, sir? So my question was, the farmers use a lot of energy on inefficient pumps, and this can be improved, but we have solar panels. Have you ever thought of that idea? I just met somebody in the U.S. with my decent tip in New York who said that he's going to come and meet you one of these days to discuss this, and he's going to revolutionize the amount of power used in the farm sector. Maybe you can consider that.
Mr. Advani, you are spot on. I cannot but agree with you 100% on this one. We are only doing it in two phases. My first phase effort is to ensure that all these old pumps, for those of you from India who understand Hindi, ये सब बाबा आदम के जमाने के पंप चल रहे हैं. 30-year, 40-year pumps still running in the country, guzzling electricity, not even giving adequate water to the farmers. Our studies have shown that energy efficient modern pumps can actually reduce the power consumption anywhere between 35 and 40%. It can also ensure that the energy consumption is metered. We can have a flow meter to ensure that water is supplied to the farm in the right measure. Excess water also damages the soil of the farmer. So we are trying, and we are also giving him a communication device. So sitting at his home, the farmer through an SMS can switch on the pump. When the flow meter shows that adequate water is in, he can switch it off from the comfort of his home. And we are trying to popularize these energy efficient pumps. I agree with you that also solar pumps would be an added benefit. We could take them off the grid, and in the daytime they could get powered supplied through the solar energy to run these pumps. But then the cost becomes extremely large. So while the energy efficient pump cost, even if I was to replace all the pumps in India, can be quickly recovered from the energy savings, once I solarize these pumps, the recovery becomes a much longer drawn out process. We are still working on creating a framework under which we can take up solarization of these pumps in the next phase. But my first priority is energy efficiency. Second priority will be to convert them to solar pumps. Both are not necessarily linked. Both can be run independently. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll be delighted to meet the gentleman you referred to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell him. You can say your name and your designation.
This is DP Mishra, Director, Development Consultants Private Limited. We have executed almost 1/3 of the power plants of the country. My question to you, sir, is in your scheme of things, have you identified municipality solid waste as one of the feedstock for generation of power, as this can also be together in tandem with the Swachh Bharat program? You'd be shocked to know that not a single power plant in India using MSW has yet been in operation successfully.
Thank you, gentlemen. In fact, you'll be happy to know that this government thinks holistically whenever we introduce a program. So soon after Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister, we worked on the tariff policy, the power tariff policy, and we have now provided a clause in the tariff policy that anybody who processes municipal waste or waste of any nature and converts that into a product, it could be compost, fertilizer, it could be recycling to make plastic or anything out of it, or it could be energy. We are encouraging all forms of recycling. I'm given to understand in some plants, the landfill has been brought down to as low as 5% by recycling different and getting different end products. As far as energy is concerned, I have made it compulsory that anybody who sets up a waste to energy project, the local electricity regulator will ensure that the DISCOM buys the power while ensuring a reasonable rate of return for the investor. And this has now been made the law of the land. So in fact, I would urge all municipalities to quickly start planning the management of their waste. Part of it could be converted to compost, for which also the Modi government has given a 1,500 rupee per ton subsidy to support and encourage conversion of waste to compost. Energy, we have encouraged by ensuring that it will have to be bought by the local DISCOM. And I think the critical element in this is going to be segregation of waste. So municipal solid waste is one thing, But when you look at garbage as a whole, municipalities and the people at large, and this is where Priyadarshini Academy, ISCC, all well-meaning people and NGOs can play a good role to encourage the people of India to understand that segregating waste is equally our responsibility and cannot be left to somebody else to do.
Last question, anybody? Yeah, please, last question. Please introduce yourself and...
My name is Vineet Nahata. I'm from Powergil Treasuries. I would take this opportunity to congratulate you on the success of the Uday scheme. I have been told that many loss-making DISCOMs are now looking forward to turning themselves around in a year or two. I would like you to elaborate what exactly has been happening at the ground level that had made the fortunes turn for these state-level undertakings.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your kind words. Thank you for your kind words. As far as Uday is concerned, I would like to mention that Uday probably is the most comprehensive turnaround plan ever made for the Indian power sector, because it not only addresses the past problem, it also prepares a proper roadmap of what will have to be done to improve the situation, and for the future, it ensures a hard budget constraint to ensure that the power sector or the DISCOMs cannot slide back to the current state of affairs. So we provided a hard budget constraint that any future losses will not be met by the bank giving out loans, but will have to be funded by the state government or by a state government guaranteed DISCOM bond. And that will be a great disincentive for DISCOMs to continue to make losses. As regards the past problems, largely we have been able to convert a lot of the accumulated debt and loans arising out of losses into state government bonds, which the state governments have taken over, and that has brought down the interest burden very significantly on many of these loss-making DISCOMs. If you take Rajasthan, for example, it had an accumulated debt of nearly 80,000 crores. That's about $12.5 billion. Out of these 80,000 crores, nearly 60,000 crores or $9 billion have been taken over by the state government. So the interest cost has come down by 4% on this, which means a saving of about 2,400 crores annually. B, even the 8% interest that's payable on it, which is about 4,800 crores, even that money will be borne by the state government. So effectively, almost 7,000 crores of the DISCOM annual loss has been taken away from the DISCOM. Simultaneously, we are helping through rationalization of coal utilization, through cheaper power from NTPC and other central GENCOs, better quality of coal. We are encouraging states to fight against power theft and bringing down their AT&C losses, for which a whole roadmap has been made. We have worked with states to prepare a 24/7 power for all document, which will ensure that going forward, every person in this country, every home, every office gets 24/7 affordable power. All of these programs have been synergized and drawn into a holistic Uday program, which is all there in public domain. And we keep monitoring that on a monthly basis. With many states, I personally monitor at the highest level. And I am happy to share with you that many of these loss-making DISCOMs, particularly Rajasthan, Haryana, they have done phenomenal work on the ground. They are attacking the AT&C losses and power theft. They have converted a lot of their debt into low-cost bonds. And I'm very confident that well in advance of the original plans, states like Rajasthan, Haryana will be able to turn around and become profit-making DISCOMs so that they can serve their people with 24 hours power, so that they can serve their farmers with adequate power to till their lands, so that they can ensure that no school, no college remains without electricity. Our effort is that electricity should become a problem of the past. It should become an opportunity of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Piyush ji. Thank you very much. We are grateful to you once again. Please give him a big hand. Please give him a thank you very much. We'll conclude it. Thank you.